Okay, and we're live with episode 74 of Cast of the Shadows.
Oh no.
Exactly. Oh no's indeed. So, lots of Star Citizen news, obviously, as the title would suggest. With a lot of good shit coming to it. It's a big patch. Currently in Wave 1 PTU? Still?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it, in the last 2 days or so, it went to Wave 2, but no, it's still in Wave 1. Which means concierge and subscribers only. So people who have spent more than $1,000 or those that are subscribers have access to the PTU right now. The patch notes, are pretty impressive. You got the let me put it on the screen here real quick. There it is. Got the patch notes a lot because it's a big patch. One of the noticeable things is that they added a mission box has been added to the Mustang. Essentially, you can now use the Mustang's cargo, and it acts as both the physical inventory for the ship, and you can actually put boxes there for missions. Oh, I have to find the flight box right at this wreck. You can now do that in a Mustang, which is good because now that starter ship finally has become useful again.
For
yeah, we got
once.
Huh?
For once.
For once. But yeah, we got actor downstream networking improvements. So Alpha 317.2, we got vastly improves how players and NPCs over the network. There will be ongoing improvements on this system. Further tuning will be done to various parameters in the future patches. They reduced floating rocks, so environment art performed a general polish on the planetary surfaces, including Daymar and Yella. That's a glitch I haven't really encountered a lot of, but it's good that they fixed it nonetheless. Refueling fixes and adjustments, so multiple refueling bugs were resolved, new features were added, fixed an issue with the Mist Reliant series to stop the ship flipping into nozzles. Ship paints will no longer change when refueling. I didn't even know that was a thing. Good. Auto refueling now correctly indicates that a surface is needed. Auto docking to the tank arm is now fixed across multiple ships, and they disabled the ability to quantum travel with a ship attached to the boom arm, which is unfortunate, but that was kind of a cool thing. But okay, I get it. You don't want to do that. Maybe in the future with actual docking, but at the same time, I can understand them not wanting to do that. Not wanting to. Oh, you can just dock. Although you already can, technically, because the Merlin docks with the Constellation. Quantum with the Connie, so maybe with regular docking, but not with just you're hanging on by this boom arm for fuel. It's flimsy little arm. Ship and weapon balancing. The Vanduul Blade returned to more closely match the Aegis Gladius, so now they're actually on they tried to make them on even footing there. Plasma cannons adjusted to 1400 meters a second with greater capacity to offset the change. Plasma cannons are also now full energy damage. Distortion damage numbers are under review. And mission box added, as we said, to the Mustang, so there's a solution. They said that this is a temporary fix, that there's going to be a full-on better solution found for a later patch.
Yes.
And this is just the current PTU patch watch. Now, what's worth noting too is that when 3.17.2 comes out, the next patch, there will be a complete database wipe. So that means anything you bought in-game, gear, armor, ships, that's all going to be reset to 0 or whatever, whatever default. So now that being said, anything you own via the RSI website, so like your ships in the hangar that you purchased via the pledge store, any armor you got via being a subscriber, all that good stuff, anything you own on the website, you're going to keep that. That's permanently linked to your account. That's not going anywhere. But anything you purchased in game will be reset to default to 0. However, they did make a note that your reputation will remain, which is good for me because I had some pretty high rep with Crusader and Hurston for those wave bunker missions. So essentially, it means you don't have to grind out your reputation again. So that's good. The wipe is going to be. They just had to do it because it was a lot of the issues that 3.17.0 and 3.17.1 had were they were only fixable via doing a patch wipe, doing a database wipe. The cloning of ships, people not being able to log in, the ASOP terminals being all wonky, like that sort of stuff. So the wipe will also fix a variety of account-related issues, bugs that some players have been unable to resolve with character resets. Character resets were a bit iffy with the most recent patches. A variety of options to compensate an undetermined amount of AUEC in 3.17.2 for those who participated in Jumptown and Ninetales lockdown later this week, which means during the 3.17. So anyone that's played this week, you're going to get a bit of a bonus in Alpha 3.17.2 in an undetermined amount of AUEC, which is nice that they're actually like compensating you for having played in the events. Because remember, the events this is still an alpha. The events aren't actual events. They're just a more glorified way for them to test back-end systems and give us a fun time in the process.
Oh, and also, too, it's good that we're moving more toward a functioning game as opposed to it just being an alpha. Like, yeah, it's still an alpha, but we are moving toward this being a game that you can, play on the daily here.
All right. So I'll have you know that's just not. Yeah, it is good that we're actually seeing the game progress into a game as opposed to just. And we got the patch notes. Also in 3.17, what else? We're getting the data persistent database wipe. We're getting all these new features that we've kind of been going on about for the last few weeks, which, I mean, they're worth repeating. We're getting the derelict. I'm blanking on the ship's name. Reclaimer. The derelict reclaimer, both on planetary surfaces and in space. We're getting the Siege of Orison event, which is by far the best event they've done. It's just a lot of stuff coming with this new patch. It's going to be big.
Huge.
It's going to be huge. Huge. But the most recent PTU build, if I'm reading this is 3.17.2F. That's the most recent build, right? So they did some combat assistance beacon polish pass. They did an updated Grimhex hospital because the hospital at Grimhex is going to be now expanded to accommodate more rooms and more people, so that when you're doing an event like, say, Jumptown on Yella, you're not going to have people waiting to spawn in because there's only 5 rooms.
Those bastards.
Like new features that were added in the PTU build. We got derelict reclaimers version 1, derelict colonial outposts, which are pretty much the burnt out, destroyed versions of the colonial outposts, like the ruins. We got AI planetary navigation and landing, so AI can actually navigate planetary surfaces, and they can land ships on the planetary surface to drop off more troops for you to fight. Illegal collect and delivery missions, so you already got it's the same type of missions as you already have, but the legal kind, which are probably pay more, but it'd be a little bit more risky. Yay. Grey Cat salvage backpack. RSI Specialist Heavy Armor sets, which, let me put these on the screen because they are amazing. Well, we'll talk about this later. The RSI Specialist Heavy Armor sets, these are awesome. So, obviously, first glance, it's the Morozov armor, but special variants of it. I mean, although I will say the white one, I don't understand why that's there, because the white one just looks like the Fool, which is already in game. But I do like the red one, specifically the helmet.
How dare you?
They're very nice. Can't wait to get access to these so I can mix and match with my Morozov armor. Then I'll have to rebuy. Go to All-Star, get more Morozov armor. Feature updates also include rest stop hangar additions, additional Stanton Lagrange points. There are new stations being added, new Lagrange points, or new stations at existing Lagrange points. There's already Lagrange points. Grimhex Hospital expansion, I already mentioned. Combat Service Beacons V2, QL, updates and polish passes, and improvements. So overall, again, big patch. This is just PTU so far. It entered PTU last week? Yeah?
Hmm?
It entered PTU last week, right?
Yes, I think so.
So it's been it's only been a week-ish, not even. Say like 5 days maybe. Yeah, this is a vintage RSI spacesuit that you'll be able. Was it subscriber flare? I think it was. They actually mentioned it.
Number
in
of new space.
Inside Star Citizen.
And for subscribers, here's a blast
Yeah.
from Star Citizen's past.
Subscriber flare. It is a RSI. It's just a vintage undersuit that's supposed to go along with the Zeus spaceship, which was in Star Citizen lore the first ship to have quantum travel and be able to travel long distances in a short amount of time. I can't say FTL because it's not FTL.
Or is it?
It's nice to have like this retro spacesuit. Hopefully has some bonuses, like maybe it protects you better against XYZ. I don't know, and I doubt that'd be the case because this is a vintage, like 100-year-old spacesuit compared to what we currently have in Star Citizen. Like that's more advanced tech. It would be better, but the armor pillar from CitizenCon 2019, which is still a very good watch. I recommend checking it out because they talked about how armor is going to be specialized and how you're going to have combat specialists, and combat utility or something like that, and then you had 3 different versions of every. Or no, sorry, 2. There's combat specialists, utility specialist, and I think there was a third one. I don't remember what it was, but there's 3 pillars, each having 2. And you'd have different armor. Okay, this armor is better against ballistics, but it's weak to energy weapons. And you have another armor that's the reverse. And this armor is better against radiation. This armor is better against heat environments, cold environments, that sort of stuff. They want to have specializations have each armor be really unique, which would also allow you to match the pieces for better playstyle. So that was their whole thing on that, and they even mentioned that with the RSI armors here. Like the red one's supposed to be this radiation, this nuclear radiation hazard suit. I don't remember what the other 2 were because I'm okay, I just focused on the helmet.
Character items and these new variants of the RRS.
Oh, I said RSI, didn't I? RRS, but yeah, and these armors technically were in the game already, but they didn't have the proper skins applied to them, and they didn't have any names. Just RRS_armor, heavy armor specialist. I have a few of them, but yeah, now we know what those are. They showed off the new Lagrange points here. We're gonna get some new Lagrange point stations, And from the looks of it, I almost want to say it looks like the old models they're reusing. So with a new coat of paint, but at least in some cases. Either way, they look nice. Hopefully their interior is... Grimhex is getting a extended hospital, as they talked about. There they show it off. Talked about fingers, and they show that off here. Here are the derelicts and colonial outpost derelicts. An AI walking on the planet. Neat stuff. Criminal missions. So then they talked about the Siege of Orison, which is kind of the main event for Alpha 3.17.2. They gave tips on it. Like you want to come prepared, ammo, loot your enemies. Don't, you're flying around, you're going to get shot down. You're not going to be able to fly there. The shuttles are going to act like elevators. There's Hidden Maze, which for those who don't know is drugs. Apparently there's a secret or two.
Or 3.
Or 4. Or who knows.
No.
And yeah, there's going to be maps scattered everywhere, so overall, it's like, again, I've played it. It's a fun event. I can't wait to play it again. When it's from the live build. I have not jumped into the... In the chat, we got Captain Trek saying hello. Hey, Cap. Not Captain Trek anymore. No, he's Captain Fandom Nerd. You changed the name. Given the recent state of the Star Trek franchise, I don't blame you. But yeah, it's cool that we're getting all this stuff with the new patch. The RSR, the armors to me look really cool. That was a neat little kind of surprise that I didn't expect. So, yeah, so far that's really it for Alpha 3.17. Cam, have you jumped into the PTU at all, or even the PU?
Nope.
Yeah.
Not in a bit.
Again, it should be fun. Hopefully, maybe next week. Because right now I can't jump into the PTU because I'm not a subscriber or concierge. I'm not
yet. You mean?
Not yet. Fair and probably true. If it goes to the Wave 2 next week, I'll probably jump and try it out. Maybe stream it. But this month in Star Citizen, so what's going on in Star Citizen in regards of July? We got Ninetales events. We got not the Siege of Orison one, but in the live build in 3.17.1, the current build of Star Citizen, not in the PT, but the live server. We got the Ninetales lockdown event. That's coming back. Jumptown 2.0 is also coming back. This way, if you want to, have some fun in the live build, waste money and everything, because there's going to be a database wipe, so you might as well just go crazy and do whatever you want before that. Although remember, your reputation will persist.
Or will it?
You also have the Star Citizen news-wise in this month Foundation Festival, so they're celebrating the incredible Star Citizen community all month long, starting July 7th. There will be updates to the guide system, which I am a guide. So that's something. Org highlights, which run an org, but it's probably not going to be in the highlights. 8 exclusive earnable free ship paints and more. And more being that there's a free fly. So starting July 7th, there's going to be a free fly event in Star Citizen. July 7th through July 18th. They're running a free fly alongside the Foundation Festival, so it should be a fun time. Hopefully it's not as crazy as Invictus, just because there's not going to be as much going on.
And so what that actually means is that people can go and play the game for free for the duration of the event.
Right. And more details will be coming soon on that. So, like how to get into the game and all that. Like, how do you download it? How is it free? Like, that will come in the coming days.
What would you do?
There's also going to be a referral code bonus starting July 7th. It's going to be a free Dragonfly. The referral code, all of our referral codes are in the description of the video. Essentially, when you're creating an account, if you haven't already, when you're creating an account, you a code that gives you extra whatever, but you have to use this when creating an account. It doesn't work afterwards. There's no place to enter it afterwards. You have to do it when you're creating an account. And it gives you extra bonuses, like in this case, a free Drake Dragonfly for both you and the person's code you use. And lastly, there's going to be a Battle of the Bricks, Star Citizen versus EVE Online. Our LEGO ship build-off battle continues. Last time they did it, was it with Dangerous?
I think so. Something like that.
It's going to be live streamed on July 22nd, so Real's birthday. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole month of July for Star Citizen. Speaking of which, it is July 4th, so happy Independence Day. Aliens are attacking, so we must. Or happy, was it happy Trader Day, Colonial, whatever. Yeah, that's Star Citizen. A lot of stuff happening. Most of it good, I'd say.
Unless that's what they want you to think.
If I remember correctly, the Colonial outposts ruins are only going to be on Microtech.
Initially, yes.
In 317 too, I mean, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the same thing with the derelict claimers, at least the planet side ones. Yes, no, maybe so?
Maybe so.
Say it ain't so. Yeah, it should be a fun ride. Honestly, like, the derelicts themselves look great, although I do question how there's vegetation inside, but based on some of the footage showing something leaking, I know, just there's no sunlight cracking in, so how would it grow?
Carefully.
You could make the argument that it weaved itself into so it's not growing there, it just expanded there. Either way, that's still pretty cool, and then you have the base derelicts. A lot of cool stuff. They're currently in PTU, so it's only been a few days in PTU as well. Probably going to be in PTU for, what, a month? It's a pretty big patch.
If not longer.
Yeah. Like, again, it only came into PTU, like, I want to say Thursday or anywhere between Tuesday and Thursday last week. But it hasn't even been a week yet in PTU, so it's going to be there for a while. It won't be in the live build. For anyone that's like, oh, I don't want to do the PTU or whatever, you're going to have to wait a bit. Fine. I haven't been in the PTU build in a while anyway, so I just do a lot of waiting. Hell, maybe for anyone that's new, the guide system help people out and give them free money, since all that money's going to disappear. All 30-something million. I tried to look for like updates on Alpha 3.18. Aside from just some salvage stuff here and there, like because they really plan on 3.18 being the salvage patch, which is good, but that's really all we have on it. Somewhere off in the distance. But yeah, so salvage is actually like that would be amazing if salvage actually comes this year.
Well, and I mean, I think we'll get salvage at the same time, though. I think much like how the medical update was.
It's of course.
I don't think it's going to be very deep.
No, it's first implementation. From what I can tell, it looks like it's just going to be shoot a laser and scrap it. It's going to be like scrapping rather than salvaging. First implementation, it looks like. But you know what? At least we're finally getting it. It's going to make a lot of ships finally usable to an extent. Like, how many people have been waiting for salvage for God knows how long, right?
Oh yeah.
Like how many ships have been just completely unusable because we didn't have salvage? So that's why I'm saying like it's because we're gonna have. First off, we're gonna have the start development game loop aside from just mining, and medical gameplay isn't. I would hesitate to call it gameplay loop because you can't just. It's not a feasible career option in game yet.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it to be, but at the moment it's not the case. And I did see someone sent me an interesting Reddit article. I didn't read the entire when I say Reddit article, like a little snippet of it. They potentially just copy and paste it because they know I don't like but go on it even. But the whole article is about how they were worried that Star Citizen's gameplay loops were pretty much just point laser at whatever to solve problem.
Yeah.
And I agreed. Like that is a concern that I have is that a lot of the gameplay loops in Star Citizen are kind of just point laser here. You know, the medical gameplay is just point laser here, unless you're using the med pens.
Yep.
Mining is now just going to be another laser.
Yep.
That's not good. I don't think. Like for mining, it makes sense, and they even mentioned in the article like mining it makes sense, but medicine, like the medical gameplay, why is that a laser?
Yeah, that.
And I agree. Like, why is that a laser? Like I understand. Look, for proof of concept, like first implementation, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And the article even says that as well. But that can't be it. Like that can't be the case
the
or end goal. Yeah. Like I get for testing purposes and stuff, it makes total sense. I'm all for that. But end of the day, that's gonna have to change.
Yep.
So I thought it was worth bringing up because I actually really enjoyed what the guy was going on. Yeah, this isn't like I don't want just every gameplay loop in Star Citizen to be point to laser, because even the cargo stuff, cargo is also just point laser, right? Point your
yep.
whatchamface, your grav gun laser, your tractor beam laser at whatever to that people don't want that. They want more genuine like. And the thing is, like, to CIG's credit, it is difficult to do. Like, you actually have to. How do you make it fun, right? How do you just make carrying boxes fun? Because that's going to get boring, obviously. The medical gameplay I can see being interesting. And that's where you get into they have to make a mini game out of it. But how do you do that? How do you make it fun? I understand the challenge, but it is worth bringing.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Also a concern. Like you don't want that to be. I don't want it to be. Oh no! Now we have freaking. It's just another laser game, essentially. Point laser at X till it does Y. to worry, but hopefully it's just a concern and nothing actually, like, not a actual problem. It all gets solved later.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah, that's. I don't think. I think we kind of. I did not expect to burn through all the Star Citizen news.
Pardon?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. What do you think? How bad do you think the event's going to be when it first goes to the live builds? Because everyone's going to be doing. Normally, I'd say it's going to probably be a little whatever, but like they already had it on the live build once. It was pretty darn good. I'm showing that game off right now.
Well, part of my concern with it is that the Siege of Orison is designed to be a PvE experience. That being said, TG have said, hey, by the way, we don't necessarily support, but we aren't against having PvP in it. Because also, too, for those who might not have noticed, if you go over to the location where the event is, it is not covered by a
it can't
comm
be.
satellite.
Just for part of the mission to work, it can't.
Yep. So because of that means that pretty much PvP is good to go there. Now I don't know if they're going to cover it with anything that will prevent ships from just coming in and blitzing the place.
They do. That's what the IFF thing they talked about is like. They showed a ship trying to go in and just getting demolished. And this wasn't like a fighter. This was a MSR.
Okay, good. Because among other things too, one big issue would be like, for example, hey, I'm in an A2. I just went and bombed. The place and ran away laughing while I just ruined 30 other people's game here. Which, on one hand, yes, that's realistic gameplay. However, on the other hand, I would say that should not be allowed, or at least there needs to be more to prevent a single person from ruining the gameplay event for everyone else.
Yeah.
There has to be something more than just I jump on my ship, I fly over high enough that they can't, get me. I drop the bomb and I fly up. Like, it can't be that easy.
No, and when I played it, like I actually tried flying out there before I started recording. I actually did fly out there in a Pisces just to see if I can just fly out to the location instead of having to take the, let's say the tram, but the shuttle. Yeah. And I just got annihilated. I didn't even get very close.
Then again, that is a Pisces. It has literally no armor value.
Apparently other people tried it too, and they didn't make it.
But that is good, because it's like I said, I'm not against the idea even of someone coming in with an A2 and bombing the place. It's just, it should be very, very hard for them to do so, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Like we talked about our problems with Jumptown 2.0 when when that initially came out the first time. And, we talked about, you had that brilliant idea of having maybe AA guns that target.
Yeah.
So that this way.
And it's like you might be able to take those out, but otherwise, until you do, because if let's say you've got AA guns, and these AA guns will destroy any munitions, i.e. bombs, so like an A2 coming in, they'll automatically target those, and they're automatically going to target any ships that are either A, hostile, so if you do have a crime stat, they'll go and shoot at you. Now, should be an option for you to be able to go and redo the targeting on those in one way or another. But generally speaking, getting a crime stat, they'll go and open fire on you. But otherwise, okay, hey, instead of hacking them, because there should always be multiple approaches too. I don't want the turrets there. Okay, one option would be hacking. Another option would be to go and blast them apart while you go and try to not get blasted first. But it's going to be pretty obvious that you're trying to go and take down these turrets, and there would be several of them. Like at least 3 in like a triangle pattern, 4 in a square pattern, something like that. So it's like you're going to have to be sitting there fighting these things for a couple of minutes to be able to take them all out until your buddy can come in with an A2, or you'd have to have multiple fighters coming in to saturate the defenses so they're all targeting the little fighters and not targeting your bomb here. And even then, your bomb might have a higher priority than the fighter. So it goes, one turret goes, instead of shooting at this Gladius, I'm going to aim at that bomb first because I know that's a bigger threat here for the facility, kind of shit. But this all just comes down to options. And that way, too, if you have players on foot, they're going, oh shit, someone's trying to take out the turret. This now gives it to where instead of, jump town, i.e., instead of just, hey, someone dropped a bomb, that's pretty much game over. Now, if you can run to your ship and fly away in time, you're good. Otherwise, you're fucked. As was often the case. I heard some people saying they were able to shoot the bomb out of the air, but it was
supposedly
very
you're supposed to be able to. I have not tried, and the one time I had, I've not successfully done it.
Yeah.
And we were this was in testing circumstances too. Like we were not talking about in actual, because I never actually had that problem in a actual jump town. The one time I did encounter an A2 at jump town, I was helping someone I encountered it twice. Once the A2 was part of our crew. And we were testing, it was, no one else was there, we just tested it, pretty much okay, we're in the bunker, drop the bomb, because we wanted to test if we'd be okay in the bunker, and, they changed that, and we were fine. The other time it was an enemy A2, and we were in a Redeemer, and we just took out the A2. It never dropped any bombs, so. Okay. I never got to actually test, let's shoot down the bomb.
But it's that way, though, you go and have, with that scenario that I painted out. So you've got these defense turrets here. By default, they'll go and shoot at anyone who has a crime stat or anyone who goes hostile in the area. By default, they'll go and shoot bombs out of the sky here. If you want to go and change that, you would either have to go and hack the turrets, and there'd be a terminal in the facility. So that way it's for example, hey, you've got Jump Town, you've got a group doing an event here. Okay, hey, 1 or 2 people go guard the fucking console that they're gonna have to hack here. Report in every minute here. If we don't hear you report in, we're throwing grenades into the room here to clear it, and we'll sort through the ashes afterwards. That way it's someone comes charging in. Shit, they're going for the controls. Get him, get him, get him.
There's objectives for players.
It's making it so you can still, and that way too, if I'm a baddie, I'm hey, fuck these guys doing jump town like a conga line. I want to murder them all. You can still absolutely do that. That is still on the table. But it's not just a free-for-all. It's not just a gank fest where you drop your bomb, you fly up giggling to yourself, having ruined 10, 20 people's day here. You got to work for it. Same as if I want to earn money, if I want to be doing my shit, I got to work for it. I want it to where if someone wants to go and gank people, it's not easy. It's not as simple as I wait for them around the corner and haha, I got you, and I laugh. Even if I die, doesn't matter. I completed my goal of ruining someone else's gameplay. You got to work for this shit.
Yeah, because the idea is that this is a multiplayer game. You need to make everyone on essentially an even playing field. So
yeah, exactly. And that's really what I want. I want that even playing field where it's not just, hey, I'm a ganker and I'm gonna screw you over, and then I laugh because you can't really do anything about it. And understanding that this is still early days, we're still in alpha, even as things are starting to get more rounded. We're still in alpha. Things are not in full implementation here. Things are not fully where they should be yet. But that's where we should be working toward, right?
sure, yeah.
So it's like I want to go and see that kind of stuff to where, yeah, I can drop my bombs, but I got to go and be shooting down these turrets first. So, hey, the guys on the ground, okay, even if I'm not doing anything, I'm just running to my ship and I'm getting the fuck out of here. Bad guys start shooting at our ships. They're like, I'll fuck these guys over. That's my one goal, is down these ships. You have about 10 seconds of firing at them, though, which is probably not going to destroy their ship, depending on what you bring, before those defense turrets get you down. Okay, I focus on the defense turrets so that I can take those out and then get their ships. Cool. It's going to take you a minute or two to take them all down, which gives the forces on the ground time to either get up, start defending, get up, get the fuck out of there. Again, it's all about balance. It's all about trade-offs and planning ahead. How do you want to do this? Or, I have one of my guys has been sitting there on the conga line infiltrating. They're waiting to go and hack the place. So they go in and try to run into the room where the guards are, start trying to shoot them up. Maybe they do. Maybe they start hacking that terminal and take the turrets down without anyone else realizing it. Great. Now my guys can go in and fuck them up. There you go. But that requires planning. It requires more than just, hey, I wanted to fuck with these people. Because that's where we're at right now, is if someone decides, hey, I just want to go and gank people, oh well. Hopefully you can react fast enough and have enough forces in the area that you can fight them off. And if not, sucks to be you, you got taken out. Which, yeah, that's realistic, but at the same point, in terms of the balance, that's not where we need to be. Because again, it's all about balance, right? Everyone should have a equal say. Both the people who are like, hey, I want to be left the fuck alone, and the people going, hey, I want to fuck with these people. Everyone should have a say of some kind.
Yeah, because also you want to make it, if it's difficult for one side, you got to make it difficult for the other side and all that sort of stuff. It's
exactly.
No, that's. I was gonna say something, but I just completely.
Okay. I blame Canada.
But yeah, you want to make it fun, but you also want to make it you have to work for it. Like Star Citizen's whole thing. Like what I love about the games that they made it. This is what I would say. They made think before you act a gameplay loop. That would just reinforce that more. Is that okay? I want to go and ruin this guy's day or whatever. Whatever it is, I want to be a pirate. I'm gonna try and kill all these people in the game and take over Jumptown, whatever it is. Okay, let me think about how I'm gonna do that though, because if I screw up, I'm dead, and then I have an entire server's worth of people. You have to think about it. Otherwise,
what it is that
you end up becoming the prey.
So that everyone has to go and plan ahead. It's not just I'm feeling bitchy today and I just want to lash out at someone. You do that, you're going to get shut down real quick. If you want to go and be a murder hobo, that should be viable. But if you want to get away with it and not, like I said, I want to make it to where if you just try to randomly murder hobo, you're going to get shut down real fast and you're going to have very limited success in your murder hoboing. To where it's like, no, if you want to be a murder hobo, sure, but you got to plan it through. You got to go and, hey, I have to go and stalk this guy for a while, get him outside of lawful area, then go and kill them and do whatever. Boom, there you go. But because right now it's just someone wants to murder Hobo, nothing's really stopping him. You know, at most, maybe they'll go and take down a comrade if they don't want a crime stat. But even crime stats right now are a fucking joke. Like, they really are.
What, you're saying you don't like getting a crime stat for accidentally bumping your friend's ship even though you're in a party?
Really?
But yeah, I agree with that, because the whole point is you want to have fun. You don't want to, and yeah, well, yeah, as I said, like, you want to, jerk around and ruin someone else's day because you want to be a pirate, right? Like, my location, not yours. I say so because I'm the guy with the gun, right? That you want to play that whole outlaw, whatever, that evil mercenary type. That's fine. That's great. That should be an option, but you should have to work for it just as any player that's playing legally and actually doing the mission, as the mission has to work for it,
Yes.
Like, you shouldn't have, because I'm doing the morally ambiguous game loop, that I get to do it in a, I get the shortcut. It's like, no, you shouldn't get shortcuts for doing it wrong, essentially. Not wrong like you're doing it incorrectly, but moral, yeah, like.
Exactly. Like, because again, if you want to be a pirate, if you want to be a bloodthirsty murderer, those are absolutely viable gameplay loops. But there's going to be consequences to them. Right now, there really aren't. Right now, if I want to be a murder hobo, I just go, every single person that I can catch, with my retaliator, outside of, I sit outside of Microtech and I just sling torpedoes down at everyone who is pulling out of Microtech. As soon as they're outside of the no fire zone, nothing's really going to go and stop that besides a player showing up and trying to take them out. Now, obviously, down the line, we're going to go and have Quanta, having NPC security going, and, after a while, they'll be alerted to what's going on. NPCs that get taken out will go and report it, and bounty hunters will, NPC bounty hunters, along with players, will eventually go in and stuff. Yes. But even still, it has to be more than just gankers set the rules and everyone else has to play to their tune. In my opinion.
No, I agree, because again, you want to make it fun. You don't want to make it like, some griefers here, and now I'm going to jump servers. Like, that shouldn't be really your thing. Like, you shouldn't be going, now I have to jump servers. It also, again, it allows that, risk-reward thing, because there should be risk to everything. Well, maybe not everything, but to most of the actions you're taking, either legally, right? Because legally now you have the risk of some schmuck who wants to, steal all your loot and everything. But if you're playing illegally, then you have the risk of, this can go horribly wrong, backfire in my face, and I can end up having 17 people out to kill me.
Yeah, or more, because down the line servers are going to be bigger, and
that's right. Server meshing. Eventually, you're going to have servers that essentially are an entire state, and then eventually, way down the line, you'll have the entire game, entire backers worth of people, ideally.
Yeah.
But as to the you were asking about the whole thing with event, PvP in new event, I only encountered, I didn't even encounter any when I did it. I was told that there was going on when I was doing the mission. Like, someone mentioned in the chat, watch out, there's a bunch of, the PvP, we got player action, and the way they called it out was just fucking awesome. And it was only 2 guys too. It wasn't an entire whatever. But we got the like I never encountered them. It was mostly just we heard they were there, and then the server 30K'd in Star Citizen fashion, so nothing ever actually came of it. But also, I think with this new Orison event, in regards to the whole PvP worry, I don't want to say there is no worry, because of course there's always going to be the worry. There's always assholes, but
Yeah.
it's going to be minimized because unless someone tells me unless I'm told or if I learn otherwise, I'm fairly certain that they're still going to be attacked by Ninetales. So it's essentially they would be fighting a three-way war.
Yes. Well, and that's one thing that I like how they're presenting that. And bear in mind, though, for the people that go and they grind out Ninetales' reputation to the point where Ninetales is friendly with them, they won't be attacked. And they can go and do stuff like that without being attacked by Ninetales. But before that point, if you were to go and try to do, hey, I'm doing Ninetales lockdown and I'm on the criminal side, Ninetales is like, hey, we don't give a fuck. We don't know who you are. We're shooting at you too. Which I think is a good thing. It's immersive.
Yeah. I thought that was worth pointing out, because I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I imagine that now they're fighting a three-way war, a war on two fronts. Also, there's going to be that friend or foe thing. Although I talked to some people who have played the PTU and were playing the event. They said that one of the things they noticed during the event was friend or foe icons tended to not always be there, in the same vein that your party marker isn't always there.
They might as well not even have been there, really.
So essentially, you'd be going by just armor, like who has what armor, right?
Yeah, which
But
doesn't always
honestly,
work either.
you probably were going to be like, even with the icons, I was super cautious because you never know.
No, exactly. And I mean, we've already seen, even years ago, there being people trying to do like false flag attacks and trying to play the whole meta game of attacking other orgs and shit. And it's like, for me, I find that silly, but some people really go for it. But generally speaking, it's like that there needs to be more viability on all sides. But yeah.
No, I agree. But the event's gonna be a good way to get free FS9s. So then again, I already have the bunkers that let me. It will be a shame to lose all that gear.
Unfortunately.
At least it's like everyone starting from scratch. So. Yeah, that's event Orison. I mean, it's a pretty large map too. I don't know why I was expecting it to be smaller, maybe because of performance reasons, but it is a fairly large location. Just the the AO. Not, I don't mean like Orison stuff. Orison's huge, but like the location for the event itself is. Like you will get lost.
I mean, It's still relatively straightforward in terms of how it's laid out. But besides that, so I mean, I don't know if necessarily you will get lost.
Actually, yeah, because
Um,
I only got lost when exploring it 3.17.1 when there was no AI. When there's AI going around, I guess it's harder to get lost. I should say, because you see where the AI
True, well,
are.
because
So
then you're
where's the
twisting
objective?
around
Oh, where there's
all
bad
the-
guys, keep going that way. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Only time will tell.
Well, for the time being, wait, who's the time being? Why are we doing things for them? What's going on?
Stop being time.
Never,
Stop beating time.
never. Blame Canada.
Yeah, I got anything? I think that's really it for the Star Citizen stuff.
Wait, about any non-Star Citizen stuff?
There's the loot box regulation stuff. Apparently, it's kind of been picking up steam again.
Well, if I remember right, too, what was it? I think it was Denmark originally
Belgium.
had. Was it Belgium?
It was Belgium.
Belgium was going and essentially going, hey, loot boxes are gambling. And if you are including them in a game, this has to be rated with like 17 plus, the highest rating, with the same rating that you would have for your hardcore raunchy sex games kind of stuff. Highest possible rating. And then after like 6 months or a year after that, they went and quietly backed down on that. And we're like, oh, well, it's really not. They're just like, they were bought off. Okay.
So far, it's been really the only countries to actually do anything is Belgium. Sorry, no, Belgium. Wait, was Belgium the ones that did that, or was it the Netherlands that changed the law? Like, where they're gonna ban them, and then decided not to. But either way, the Belgium and the Netherlands are the only two. Anything about it? Whereas everyone else is either talking about it and then nothing gets done, or they're just straight up ignoring it. But here we got May 30th. Honestly, we had the whole Diablo Immortal won't launch in 2 countries due to loot box regulation.
Good.
Yeah. Specifically, those countries were the Dutch, Netherlands, and Belgium. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Because they have basically the post. A statement by Blizzard employee shared to Diablo Immortal subreddit also stated that players in the 2 countries won't be able to download the game due to said restrictions. Quoting them saying, the loot boxes in the game are against the law in your country, so unless the gambling restrictions change, the game will not be released in Belgium. If you manage to run the game, I cannot guarantee that you will not be banned.
You
And like
And
Belgium started
hey.
changing, like, adding loot boxes under their gambling laws years ago. And Netherlands started doing it,
loot
I think,
boxes in
relatively
general,
afterwards.
Yeah. Loot boxes in general, I don't necessarily have anything against, but at the same point, it's the way they are done specifically to be very, very predatory, very much preying on people's addictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, to where, I mean, you literally have people whose entire job it is to psychoanalyze the player base to specifically get them to buy more microtransactions or macro transactions, as the case might be. And it's like this is predatory.
Indeed.
And in a real life setting, to where, you know, if you go to a casino, everyone knows, you know, you go to a casino, you're going to be getting taken advantage of. Yeah, and people, not, you still have people who have gambling addictions, but you have a lot of help out there. It's recognized as being, you know, hey, people are going to kind of do this anyway. Let's regulate this as much as possible, kind of thing, to make it, you know, relatively safe and viable for all people involved. Whereas with video games, it's still seems to be very much the Wild
It's
West.
still a
And
very
hey, guess
fresh
what?
market, so and
Yeah.
the industry itself has very little regulation as a whole, which is why you always have those people like, oh, violent video games, blah blah blah. But the industry itself just has very little regulation, so it's opening and leading itself open, I should say, to a lot of this sort of stuff, like boxes. And a lot of people are always fearful of government regulation in regards to the industry, which understandable completely. However, the problem is, what's the alternative? Because it's not going to regulate themselves. Like, if that was going to happen, it would have happened already. Like, the problem with it's really the same problem, but with different entities. Like, if you government regulates
the
it,
government is just as corrupt, if not worse. I would actually argue in some ways the government is more corrupt and worse than the companies, because, you know, with the companies, there's really no pretense that they're doing anything other than what they are doing, which is milking you for every dollar they can. With the government, everything they do, even though they are just as corrupt, if not worse. And again, in some cases, I'm not saying every single person in the government is corrupt, anarchy, blame. I'm not saying that.
you used to work for the
But
government.
with many of these regulations that get put out, the people going and guiding that are just as corrupt as the companies here, and often in the pocket of one or more of them. Just they have the pretense that, well, we're doing this for you, we the selfless government, and you just need to obey us and everything will be good. Yeah, no. Yeah, anything else, Mando? I believe Mando has died. Mando.
Sorry about that.
You're alive. How dare you?
I typed in the group message that I was gonna away shortly. Sorry. No, you're right. The whole the government is absolutely corrupt, at least in context of what we're talking about. But the problem, the persisting problem here is that if the industry isn't gonna the industry itself won't regulate itself, so you'd have to have the government, right? Which is why you have like loot boxes classified as gambling, and that will solve that issue, right?
Apparently not.
I mean, it works in Belgium, but here's the thing: the concern with I feel like more and more, maybe just in the context of loot boxes, government oversight may not be horrible.
Well, I mean,
just because it is worse than gambling, and gambling is state regulated, so like maybe you have it at least in America.
Well, I mean, part of the problem, and this goes with anything the government touches. Now, could limitations be done in video games in terms of loot boxes being seen as an extension of gambling? I.e., for example, if you were to go and just have regulation that goes and says, hey, if you have randomized loot boxes in your game that require that through any means you can go and use real money to get to the point where you are buying the loot box. So, as always, of course, it's always been, well, these aren't loot boxes. You're not using money to get them. You just use money to buy your in-game currency, and then you use our in-game currency to buy the loot box. Any steps therein between besides, okay, I paid for the game, I'm playing the game. Outside of that, if there's anything that has a real money transaction that through some series of steps can then be gone and used to purchase the loot box, should all fall under gambling rules and be considered as such. So just, as if you have your gambling websites to where you are using real money to go and gamble and able to win real money with them, just as those would be regulated, these video games, if they had such a mechanic to where through any number of steps, you purchasing in-game money and then using in-game money to go and buy the loot box, any setup like that, it gets treated as just actual gambling. As no holds barred, it is gambling, and it's seen directly as such. A regulation such as that, so any limitations thereof for gambling, that, hey, you have to be 21. Cool. This means then if EA, if you want to have your loot boxes in Battlefield Infinity or whatever it is.
Or how about just the children's games like your FIFAs and Maddens and all these sports games that are rated E for everyone.
In FIFA, that you buy with real money or you buy with in-game money, but you buy the in-game money with real money, then you have to go and restrict your game to 21 or older. You have to. By law. I would be A-okay with that.
Yep.
The problem is, and this goes with anything the government touches, is that even if it's approached with the best of intentions, what usually happens is someone goes, hey, let's throw this other thing in there because I really hate video games. Or let's go and throw this other requirement in here because, hey, fuck those guys. And you end up with a Frankenstein's monster of regulations that really barely even touch on the original problem, if at all, and ends up causing far more problems and ends up being far worse for the people you were supposedly trying to help, but all in the name of helping them because we're the government and we know what's best for you. If it wasn't for that mentality of we're the government and we know what's best for you kind of bullshit, I would be A-okay with seeing the government coming in and regulating that kind of stuff just as gambling. I don't think they'll stay in their lane and only focus on that.
Right, so that's what I was going to say earlier, is that it would be great, but we know that when you give them an inch, they take a mile.
They're going to overreach. Well,
Yeah.
because these are the same guys. I mean, with how many of these political creatures, at least here in the U.S., the majority of them are over 50. The majority of them are in their 60s, 70s, 80s here. I mean, and these are the same ones who have been always going and saying, oh, these darn kids and their rock and roll, that's the devil's music kind of bullshit. I mean, these are literally the same guys that just a couple of years ago, not even a decade ago, a couple of years ago, were asking people from Facebook, hey, how come Google tracks my phone? Kind of shit. And it's just like, this has nothing to do with what's in discussion here. Just they are utterly and completely out of touch in terms of technology, which means they also don't care about it. Which is a problem. When you're making regulations about this shit and you don't know and you don't care, you're
Well, it's
gonna
what you
fuck
see with
it
the
up.
firearms all the time. Why we have absurd gun laws.
Well, I mean,
Especially
look,
the poor
this is the
Californians.
bullet shooty thing.
But getting back on track
Politicians
with
and
the
gun laws.
what was that?
Because the politicians and gun laws, just hearing a politician trying to describe what the parts of a gun do, and they have no clue, and they want to tell you that they're a subject matter expert for regulating them. How can you regulate something if you have no idea what it is or what it does?
And how it works.
Exactly. But I'm sure they know.
But back the whole loot box government thing, like, yeah, that's the problem there, is that it's going to be you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And obviously no one wants that, because then you end up with government restricting, like, okay, yeah, we're banning loot boxes. Oh, but we don't like this other thing that games do, and say it's something that's good and people like. That they start banning that because they don't like it. It's like that, and that's the problem there. So we're kind of at an impasse of what the fuck do we do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously vote with your wallet. In some cases that actually works, because unlike, say, Disney, EA, or what's and face, why am I blanking on do all the Tom Clancy games, Ubisoft, those guys, you vote with their wallet, it's gonna hurt them. Like, this has been the case. It's why they shut down Breakpoint, or whatever the hell, right? Breaking Point, Ghost Recon, the one with the NFTs. Like, so it does work in that context for these guys. It's not like Disney, where they're getting money from the government, and before anyone jumps down my throat with, oh, but they got rid of the Ready Creek Improvement District, so they don't have that anymore. That's true. They don't have that anymore. But I think that the government that the kickbacks they were getting from the government were not from, at least the ones that we covered a few years ago, during at the beginning when it was actually a pandemic. I think that was separate from the Ready Creek Improvement District. So that means they're still getting taxpayer money. And look, I could be wrong. I'm just saying I think that was that's a different source of income, shall we say. So that's not affected, in which case they're still making moolah from just you, essentially. Even whether you want to give them money or not, they're still making money from you. Here with EA and all these other game companies, that's not the case. Like, they're making their money from you, whether you're willingly doing it or you're being suckered via the psychological manipulative tactics of a loot box. Such as the case with Diablo Immortal. Like, and people have spent thousands of dollars. I mean, we 2 years ago we covered stories of all these kids that are emptying their parents' bank accounts playing FIFA because they're trying to get their favorite player. Either unknowingly, right? Like, they didn't know that they're spending real money, or they did and didn't care, or they did know and they do care, but they needed that rush because it released fun chemicals whenever they did the loot box and got the fun animation and saw their favorite player. And they couldn't stop themselves when they wanted to. So the loot boxes, obviously, we don't need to go down this whole rabbit hole. Like, it's bad. We all know it's bad. We all know it's worse than gambling. Even just when you're gambling,
It is gambling.
you have, I'd say it's worse, because gambling, at least you have the illusion, at the very least, the illusion of control. Here you don't. It's just press button and then hope for the best.
True.
Gambling, there's more involved, depending on the game, especially.
Either way, it's rigged against you.
Yes, absolutely.
It really is. And that's the one thing too, is that's like, I mean, for example, here in Michigan, which is the state I live in, there are rules, there are standards set by, and I'm not sure if it's the state level or federal level, but there's standards set for, hey, like, if you have a slot machine, you have to have it go and pay out. You have to have a chance of winning at least X.
Right.
And from what I understand now, and here again we come to the government going, and they started off. If I'm being generous, I'll say they started off with the best of intentions here. But as it is in Michigan, most casinos, or at least the major big ones here, they go and say, well, hey, we understand you want us to set that here, in terms of just pure statistics, X number of people will win out of Y number of people who play. We don't care. We're going to go and set our standards much lower than that, and instead we'll just go and pay the fine, i.e. the kickback, because that money goes to the government into their pockets to fund whatever pet projects they have. So effectively now, yes, it's a fine, but the casino doesn't care. They're probably making as much as they pay out in the fine in a fucking day. So at that point, it essentially just becomes that's their fee to do it. Which isn't fucking great.
Nope.
Because at this point now, for all intents and purposes, you're going and you're allowing them to do it, to screw people over. And you can say, we the politicians, we did something, woohoo, go us, but really you haven't solved the problem at all. But that would be assuming they wanted to solve the problem in the first place.
Correct.
Which is, open to interpretation.
No, but the point being here with the loot boxes is that you have the government get involved and regulate it. And again, we're just referring to the states because different governments operate differently. But in the states, if you were to have the government, honestly, the best way to do it would be individual states operating it. But even then, everyone's talking about how they should be regulated. To me, it shouldn't exist. This should not be in a game unless there's no money involved whatsoever. But personally speaking, I don't think there should be any real-world currency involved in any type of game, period, except for playing the game. Buying it to then play. Because nothing in the game has real-world value, only the game itself does.
Yep.
So apparently, back in June, a month ago now, 18 countries back a report calling for loot box regulations. Document dubs the practice exploitative, which is understatement. Saying, how the report gives an outline of the history of monetization in games and how practices around loot boxes and in-game currency have evolved to exploit customers, which is, again, understatement. It highlights deceptive design in games, tricks that exploitive, cognitive, or behavioral biases to incentivize spending. Loot boxes are also frequently marketed aggressively by advertising the possible rewards, which is also considered deceptive by the report. 2 case studies of particularly predatory practices are also included in the document. It detailed how loot boxes are implemented in FIFA 22, which is by EA, and Raid Shadow Legends, everyone's favorite sponsor, and the problem it presents. The report rounds up by listing several actions that the industry and its regulators can take to improve the landscape around loot boxes, including, and this includes, banning the aforementioned deceptive design, which, in the case of EA, Activision Blizzard, and I don't remember if it was Sony or Ubisoft, could have been both, but those 3 or 4 companies actually patented AI around this quote unquote deceptive design, actually be an AI is patented around essentially deceiving you and manipulating you into spending more on loot boxes.
It's literally designed to.
EA was actually sued over this several months, I think like a year or so ago. We covered it, but of course, technicality got them off. Essentially, they pulled the deny card, which is a very political move to do. So yeah, that's one. Is literally banning all of that shit. So it's literally just, I guess, randomly generated, not deceivingly or anything like that. I don't even know. Just ban that shit. Denoting all in-game purchases in real-world currency. So essentially, you cannot buy with real-world money, which is kind of a no-brainer to me. Not implementing loot boxes in games aimed at minors. So anything rated E or T cannot have it. Because again, gambling in the states, you have to be, in some states it's either, I think 18 some states, but for the most part it's 21. Be 21 in order to actually gamble. So that's the reason that should apply everywhere in digital media as well.
You would think.
More transparency around the algorithms that determine the outcome of the purchase, and more enforcement around customer rights in game. So I agree with all of these. Problem is, none of it's going to actually happen, unfortunately. And the thing is, we're kind of stuck in this weird dilemma, because even if you outright ban the loot boxes, right? What you're left with is, well, now they're going to start going to, because we saw this with Ubisoft, they're going to start going to frickin' whatchamface, what do they call it? The NFTs. The digital money laundering.
Yep.
So, that's probably why they tested, because, loot boxes have been under the radar for a while. Have been under the spotlight for a while, and several government entities have either already banned them or are starting to. So that's why they're starting to flock to Square Enix CEO was saying this. EA surprisingly hasn't said anything on it, but a bunch of companies are either already have or are planning to implement various NFT related aspects into their games, because they're like, oh crap, we had this huge thing of income with the loot boxes where we essentially just scam people. What are we going to do now, because this is going to hurt our profit margins? Well, we just use this different scam. And the reason why I bring this up as a problem is because, well, now we're fighting. Okay, great. So it's either we have loot boxes or we have NFTs. We're screwed. And if it's not NFTs, they'll find something worse. The problem is, and that's why you get into the whole, maybe government regulation might not be a bad idea, just to ban any monetization in game. But then the government would be like, oh, well, what else can we get rid of in games? The article here continues saying, it adds that if these remedies do not alleviate the issues, the industry should consider a ban of paid loot boxes in games altogether, which again, they should ban any monetization in games, in my opinion. Honestly, I hate the free-to-play model that all these games go for. The free-to-play is bullshit.
Absolutely.
I miss the old days of, you had a game, it was $20 or $5 or $60, but you know what? You were getting something quality and good because they knew, hey, we're charging people for X. If X doesn't do well, then we don't make money. So we need to make something that will sell well. It forced them to actually put effort into it. Now they don't have to. I constantly keep saying on channel, we get more of the same is less every year with every game.
Yep.
Conversations around loot boxes and legality have been ongoing. In 2018, the Belgian Gaming Commission. So that was it. 2018. Belgian Gaming Commission ruled that the implementation of them in games reached multiple gambling laws in the country. That same year, EA found itself embroiled in a 4-year-long discussion on whether FIFA's card packs should be seen as gambling under Dutch legislation. In the end, it was decided that loot boxes are not subject to the gambling laws if they follow a certain criteria, which we covered when that was happening. But I don't know how that doesn't follow, but okay. Since then, handfuls of publishers, including Nintendo, Blizzard, Konami, and several others, have stopped the sales of loot boxes in Belgium, as well as other territories that no longer permitted law. Last year, a UK report also dubbed loot boxes structurally and psychologically akin to gambling, and called for new policies to be placed, including a clear definition of what a loot box is, full disclosure of the odds when purchasing them, and spending limits. UK government also called for evidence on loot boxes ahead of the potential review of gambling laws in the country, the results of which should be revealed later this year. A similar proposal was put forward in Australia in 2021 that would see loot boxes banned from games targeted at children. So, at least something's happening, but it's still... Again, this whole entire report thing is backed by 18 European countries and 20 consumer groups, like Norwegian Consumer Council and stuff. And you remember EA did that infamous Kinder Eggs, right? Surprise mechanics back in what was it, 2019?
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Yeah, that was in the UK House of Commons. I was about to say Tencent. I mean, same thing, but Epic was there alongside Activision and Blizzard, if I recall.
Yep.
Yeah, here we also have.
Tencent is just
Well, Tencent is fucking China, so. But of course it's all gonna be they love it because China's kind of the reason we have them in the first place.
Dude, apparently the whole idea of these macro transactions, apparently
not
they're
call them
super
micro.
big in China. I
They're
don't
what?
know why, but okay. Macro transactions and that whole kind of stuff, they're super big.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it was there before it came to the States. That's what I was getting at. China's kind of the reason we have it. Because it was very popular there, and now it's very popular here because the companies brought it here because hey, it's really good over there. Maybe we should try it here in America. Yeah. And yeah, nothing here is micro. If it's above if it's above 0.99, it's not micro. Let's use proper terminology. The English language, or just language, exists for a reason. Terminology exists to describe things purposefully and specifically. Now here we got a EA omits Ultimate Team revenue figures from 2022 to an SEC report. Just for context, by the way, EA in 2021 made something like $1.62 billion specifically from Ultimate Team. That's not their entire revenue. That's just from the loot boxes.
Yep.
And that makes up 29% of its business. And the problem too is I say vote with your wallet, which again you should, but the problem is loot boxes are, for the most part, it's people that are don't care and do it anyways. Don't know better, do care and can't help it, or I already covered it, just don't care. So you have the addicts, the ignorant, and the fools.
Cool.
You fool! But yeah, like, and that's pretty much what the customer base of loot boxes primarily is. And I don't mean to like be insultive or whatever. Just that's the statistics of it. I'm just putting it in more layman's terms than layman's demographics rather. But that is who most of the people that actually buy and participate in this monetization scheme. Like you have the children that don't know any better. You've got the whales, and then you've got the addicts, the people that like they know better, they know it's bad, but they can't help it because they've been addicted, because they're victims of the system. And that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, apparently, to no one's surprise, according to a report by Axios, EA has elected to not report its earnings from FIFA to the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission. Live services net revenue, particularly extra content net revenue, has been material to our business, and we expect it to continue to be so. Lootbox-driven Ultimate Team modes appear in EA, FIFA, Madden, NHL, NBA, and UFC products. That's pretty much all their sports titles. Well, no, it's not. Do they still make MLB games?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway, Ultimate Team earnings have grown every year since it began breaking them out from the rest of its live service businesses in fiscal 2017, when they brought in a total of $775 million, and then I already said the rest, where they earned 0.62 last year, 0.62 billion. But yeah, it's insane that this is thing. But we got more loot box stuff. Because the problem is they've kind of avoided the ban hammer, right?
Yes.
And that's the problem. And one of the problems too is that, well, how do you go about it? Like, to me, it's simple. Just ban monetization in games. Like, whether how you would go about it is the problem, but the solution is just ban monetization in a video game.
And to know,
you don't have.
This isn't to say put a fee on it, because if you put a fee on it, the companies happily pay the fee as they make 1,000 times that in a week.
As we just showed, like EA makes $1.62 billion last year from the FIFA, not even FIFA, just the Ultimate Team modes, like all of them in general. Just loot boxes alone have granted them $1.62 billion. Billion dollars.
They do it because it works.
That's more than fucking a movie box office. That's more than most people will ever make in their lives.
And I mean, and one thing I should note too, and let me swap up my tinfoil hat here real quick.
Of course.
We're assuming, when we go and we talk about the government having regulation on this kind of stuff, and we're assuming we're going at it from the perspective of, we want the problem to be fixed. However, it would seem, at least with a lot of things that the government dips its hands into, is that instead of a problem being fixed, again, whether we're talking about the war on drugs, the war on poverty, war on racism, et cetera, ad nauseum, it seems that when the government gets involved here, instead of the problem ever being fixed, it stagnates at best, if not gets worse than what it really was. I mean, if you look at, for example, since the government's war on poverty began, the actual percentage of people in poverty has only increased.
Indeed.
It's like,
no, and you're absolutely, and that's the problem. Like,
and you might be starting at it from a perspective of, we want to help people, and it's like, that's great, but what is actually happening is you aren't.
No, and that's why I mentioned like the solution is simple. How you go about it isn't. You know, like the solution is simple. Ban monetization. I don't like. I know some people like, oh, cosmetics doesn't bother me, and like, I'm just speaking my opinion here. You know, what if you don't, you don't mind it, whatever, you don't mind loot box, whatever, that's fine. That, you don't mind it. It doesn't like, because look, I don't play any of these games that have them, so it doesn't affect me. But I'm not thinking about myself here. I'm thinking about others and the industry as a whole, because loot boxes, whether you like them, don't care, do care, regardless, they affect the industry and therefore affect the quality of the games and therefore affect the type of games that you would be playing. Even if you're like, oh, I'm not playing Madden, like, because personally I haven't, the one and only Madden game I played was I think 07 or 08. It was because it was a time where I broke my arm and I'm like, crap, I can't play football, so might as well play digital football, and I had a fun time because the games were good then. But like I don't play these games, but the thing is, it's not about me. It's about the industry as a whole and the people that do play them and fall victim for this shit. And again, it also determines the industry as a whole and the quality of the games we get in this industry. Like you look at the games, as I said before, the more the same is less. Look at games today and compare them to a game from 2012. That's 10 years ago. Okay, now comparing that to a game from 2002 may actually be evolving. But the point is, look at games today and look at games from 10 years ago. Look at games today and look at games from 12 years ago. And in some cases, look at games today and then look at games from 20 years ago.
Noticeable difference.
There's a noticeable difference, and largely in a lack of quality in modern. Yes, they have higher frame rate. Yes, they have better graphics. But what else do they have? Because at the moment, it's just all flash, no substance. It's all flash, no substance, right? So all style, no substance. All flash, no function, I think. That's like you have to have the same letter. And it's the whole loot boxes have become a popular topic again because of the recent release with Diablo Immortal, and how it's loot box the game essentially. Like it's pay to win. You have to buy stuff in order to just upgrade your character. And the thing is, that's the problem too. Is when you have a game that's based around loot boxes, like Halo 5 had that issue where its entire progression system was tied to loot boxes. You had to unlock, and yes, you can earn them with in-game points, and I'll give them credit. They didn't make it where it was a complete chore and grind to earn points. Like, you earned points pretty damn easy to get them.
But even still.
But still, it was, oh, I want that cool helmet. No, too bad. You have to open a pack, a rec pack, they called them, and hope that you get that helmet. Instead of, I earned the points, I leveled up, I should now be able to just use those points to then get that helmet.
Nope.
Like, say, in Halo Reach, or even Halo 4. And again, like in Halo Infinite, for instance, just to keep it with the same game thing, yes, Halo Infinite didn't have loot boxes, but it still had egregious and predatory and downright malicious monetization, where you're charging people $20 for fucking colors. But blue, $20 for blue, right? The whole Angry Joe thing. But you're in it. It's not loot boxes in this instant, Halo Infinite. However, they make it such a grind that it's almost like working instead of playing. And the point of that is to incentivize you and force you to buy it instead of playing for it, because playing for it is such a chore. And that's just the games that don't have the loot boxes. And that's the problem with the monetization in games as a whole, which is why I don't think it should be there at all. And this article here is a pretty good one. This is an opinion piece, I will say that. But the reason why I brought it up is because they do mention a lot of the systems, how it's, got the gotcha systems and stuff like that, and they bring up the whole thing of how do you go about fixing it? Because the government, and they mention a lot of the points that we did. They don't mention the government angle where, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. But They do talk about, essentially they're just trying to explain, well, how do you solve the issue when it's difficult to explain what a loot box is to someone like a politician? Like, that's one of the lines in this article, and I thought that was a very good point. Like, that's why it's difficult. That's why we don't have a solution yet, among other reasons, such as major corporation making a shit ton of money. So,
like very much your average politician is not this all-knowing, almighty person. They're an average person, if not worse than the average person.
yeah. It's what's that old quote from what's his face, and what's his face, and who's gonna call it? No, Churchill, right? Where the problem with democracy is just talk to the average voter, something like that, right?
Yeah. Something like that.
I mean, obviously, yeah, democracy is not perfect, but I mean, and that is a very good argument against it. A fun joke I enjoy using sometimes is, what do you call a smart person in America? A tourist. Right? That's a good one. But at the end of the day, it's a problem. Like, the loot box thing, and your politician isn't gonna know jack shit. They're not. It's not, unless it's like a politician who has kids that are young enough to be playing these games and fall victim and all that, which, as you mentioned earlier, most of these politicians are near the grave. I mean, which is a different problem that's separate to gaming as a whole. It's just worth mentioning. Like, it doesn't help that they're out of touch and, not informed. Which is the problem with having the government regulate things, but then you're stuck at the original problem. What do you do? How do you solve this issue?
YouTube for a Klondike bar.
Apparently, U.S. advocacy groups call on FTC to investigate FIFA loot boxes. Thankfully, we have so many fucking institutions that get around things somehow. A coalition of 15 advocacy groups yesterday sent an open letter to the U.S. Federal Trade Commission asking the regulator to investigate manipulative design abuses in the FIFA franchise, specifically the loot box-driven Ultimate Team mode. Led by Fair Play and Center for Digital Democracy, really? The groups repeatedly cited the recently released Norwegian Consumer Council report in describing dark patterns they exploit children's lack of financial literacy and poor understanding of odds, which, again, that was the report we covered earlier, that they were saying you have to ban the use of real-world currency and that sort of stuff, and show the odds and everything like that. By relentlessly marketing pay-to-win loot boxes, EA is exploiting children's desire to compete with their friends, despite the fact that most adults, let alone kids, could not determine their odds of receiving a highly coveted card or what cards cost in real money. The FTC must use its power to investigate these design abuses and determine just how many kids and teens are being fleeced by EA. Which I think, I would love to see the numbers. Having the statistics in hand helps. Especially when you're trying to get some kind of regulations involved. The letter raises concerns about number of EA's practices, like requiring Ultimate Team packs to be purchased with multiple virtual currencies, abstracting their actual cost. And that's the thing too, is I thought, we have to, how much would it cost in real life? The problem is it doesn't cost anything in real life. Like, any value, any type of value that an in-game item has is artificial and purely circumstantial. There's nothing truly valuable in it. It's a digital asset. It's a bunch of code on a screen. Like, I've had someone tell me once, the counter argument to that is like, well, a game engine has value. That's in the game. It's like, yes, but that was, the people using the engine to make the game already paid for that, for the engine from whoever provides the engine. So you're not paying for that. You're paying for the game. You know what I mean? Like, that's, like, for instance, if I'm making a barbecue sauce, and I'm not making the bottles myself. I'm buying the bottles for the manufacturing where I'm pouring the sauces into. I'm not charging you for the sauce. I'm charging you for the whole product, not each individual thing. I'm not charging you for each individual component. It's like that was like whoever, I don't even remember who I was talking to with that, but that's why that argument's kind of flawed, because like, you don't charge for the individual component, you charge for the sum, so that you can keep buying those components to make more and also make a profit. Which is why, unfortunately, barbecue sauces are going up from like anywhere between $2 to $4 to $6 to frickin' $12. But that's inflation for you. Anyway, the FTC held a workshop event on loot boxes in 2019, but did not take action on the subject. Update: an EA representative responded to a request for comment saying, "We design our games to offer choice, fun, fairness, and value for our players. In all, should I produce in a mocking voice? In all of our games, including FIFA, spending is always optional, and most players choose not to spend at all. We want all players to have a positive experience in our games and strive to empower players and parents with as much information and control as possible to make informed choices." Yeah, that last one is complete and utter bullshit, but they are correct about, from what little I've seen of statistics, they are correct that most players do not spend at all. Because those that do spend in thousands of dollars. Also, when they say most, we're not talking about like 10, we're not talking about, most is 8 out of 10 people. We're talking most is probably a few 100,000 people out of a few 100 million. Or even a billion. You know what I mean? Like this, most people. Yeah, but we're not talking about a kindergarten class here. We're talking about the entire world.
Details.
5 billion is most out of, it's 5 billion is more out of 8 billion, right? But you still have 3 billion people that are still doing, that's like, so depending on what the numbers are, which is why, again, I emphasized on before of getting the statistics in hand would be super helpful, because that means nothing depending on how many people. And as for the whole, we want players to have a positive experience in our games, and the strive to empower players and parents with as much information as possible. Cam, in those BBC reports we read back in 2020, which regarding the whole kids spending $16,000, whatever their parents' bank accounts in FIFA, wasn't that because the EA was saying like, oh no, there's locks and stuff for kids not to use them, but the parents clearly didn't know about them because they're not informed. So like,
also too, if I'm a kid playing a game, even if I get a pop-up saying, "Hey kid, go and tell your parent that these lockout options are here," they're not going to tell their parent.
No, of course not. No, and that's the thing too. Is like, okay, and even ignore that part where it's, okay, say the parent, like, how does the parent know? Like, how does, without listening to people like us and stuff, like, say you're just a parent, you got a let's say 7-year-old kid, and he wants to play a soccer game or a basketball game so he can play with his favorite team and all that stuff. Fine. How does the parent know that it has loot boxes? How does the parent know what loot boxes are? And that's the problem, is the lack of information, knowledge.
Yep.
There's an old saying, giving, and the way to progress is through knowledge and enlightening your fellow man. But how do you go about it in this case? Well,
Carefully.
Ideally, you would have, okay, this game is not for kids, not rated E. It would be rated N or PEGI. Is there? I'm not super well versed in the PEGI ratings for overseas games, but is there one over at PEGI 18, or is PEGI 18 the highest? Because in the States it's N.
I want to say that there's.
I feel like there's an older, a higher
one. 18 plus kind of thing that gets used as a
like an all-encompassing one, like, because in the States
it gets used for like the nudity kind of thing, like the sex mode kind of stuff.
Because in the States it's just N. But I don't know what the one with the PEGI rating is. I know there's PEGI 16 and PEGI 18, and that's really. But yeah, in this case, it's like you'd have it maybe having a giant thing on the back saying this game has whatever. Because also that's another thing too is you got to make it obvious because parents aren't always the wisest, And I don't mean to be insulting the parents. I'm just saying like how many times for any proverbial viewers that are watching and are parents, how many times have you accidentally went into a store without looking? You just saw the box and the box art of whatever it was, what food or game or whatever, and you just bought it on that. And then when you got home or later in your cart before you check out, or even after you checked out, you're looking at it and you go, "Oh, I bought the wrong thing. I misread. I just went off the box art." Like, because that happens to everyone. That's not even just a parent thing. Like I've done that once. Like I know many people who've done that, and that's a problem. Like so, you got to make it obvious. You have to get the knowledge out there, which is why I think it's important that we're talking about it here now. But the problem is, you got to make it in a more easily accessible way for parents and kids and just everyone as a whole, because otherwise you end up with people either becoming addicted because the whole point is that they get psychologically manipulated into becoming an addict so that they can keep paying so that EA or whatever company having the loot box, in this case EA, keeps getting more money, or it just, again, that knowledge helps. Like in here they end
they want you to think.
They actually end the here's the actual, no, that was the quote. They continue the quote here saying, "We encourage the use of parental controls, including spend controls that are available for every major..." That right there. Why are there spend controls? Like, there shouldn't be any spending at all in a kid's game. But
Yep.
Like at all. Like why would you have a spend controls? No, the kid can spend like $5. Like, why would the kid be spending any money? That's not okay. They talk about here that are available for every major gaming platform, including EA's own platform, which is Origin. We also introduced FIFA Playtime, a dashboard that provides players with visibility into their time played, packs opened, and points purchased. We are currently listening to our community and invest blah blah blah. It's all PR bullshit. But
yeah. Well, I mean, like how many times have we seen companies going like, we take the allegations of sexual harassment in our office very serious while these people are still working.
No, the best one is we have a zero tolerance policy on it, and that's always the best one. We have a zero tolerance policy.
Like which actually means you don't care. Even
apparently.
If it was like a school zero tolerance policy where it's like, okay, something happens and everyone involved gets fired, like that would be shitty, but it would at least be doing something. It's not even that good because it's like they don't do anything to the people. I mean, look at what was it? Activision Blizzard, where Bobby Kotick is still to this day going, doing his normal job, and he's been confirmed he's going to get a nice golden parachute once Microsoft actually finalizes the acquisition of him.
Yeah, and we were talking about that last week. And that's the problem too. Like in the whole thing with the, I know you weren't there last week when we talked about, because we talked about it before we went live last week. That article with the abortion stuff, and before anyone says no, this wasn't. We're not getting into that topic. We're just talking about how all these game companies, and like this on the Friday that the Roe vs. Wade ruling was overturned, all these different companies started essentially virtue signaling, like, oh no, we're gonna fight this, blah blah blah. Like, in every single one of the companies is a company that either has or currently has been investigated for sexual harassment stuff and has sexually harassed their female employees, or is currently doing so, or currently investigated because they are doing so. Like, every single one of the companies was a perpetrator of this heinous crime. Yet, no, we're all for women power, female rights, blah, 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 despite us trampling them at the workplace. There's an old Japanese proverb, those that live in glass houses don't throw stones, right? Clean up your own
Something
house
like
before
that.
you start telling others how to live, how to manage theirs. And in this case, with the loot box stuff, it's just it's more the same bullshit with EA, where it's just, here we have a company that's like, they're constantly perpetrating this illegal activity with gambling in a video game rated for children, and no, it's okay. We have all these lockouts and all this stuff, and they do have some of this stuff, but it's so either asinine in its execution or ineffective. Like, it exists, but it's ineffective, and that's the bottom line. Like, you need to make it effective, and the problem is they don't want to, because they know, as we pointed out, it's a huge revenue source for them. So why would they change things? And that's why we need a third party to get involved. The question is, how do you go about that without making things worse?
Carefully.
Very carefully. So apparently 6 political parties campaigned for loot box bans in the Netherlands. So in Deutschland, actually no, that's not Deutschland. Deutschland is, I don't fucking know. There's too many nicknames for all these different countries. But in the Netherlands, apparently 6 political parties have submitted a motion to the country's House of Representatives to ban loot boxes. The motion, as translated by Reset Era user Hawklane and reported by VGC Video Game Chronicle, says that children in video games are manipulated to purchase microtransactions, which are macro. Let's, again, proper terminology here, macro transactions, and that loot boxes represent a form of gambling. Pointing to the example of Belgium and strict regulations around loot boxes since 2018, the motion asks the cabinet to investigate the possibility to also ban these loot boxes in the Netherlands and, where necessary, change the law. If the motion is backed by the House of Representatives, it will be debated in the Senate before going into effect if approved. Which, again, that's great. At least they're making progress in the Netherlands. Unfortunately, we're still fucking screwed in the US and the UK as well, and those are the 2 largest. And the reason why I point out the US and the UK is because they're the largest video game customer bases that aren't China. Or Korea, for that matter. Video games has really skyrocketed in popularity, hasn't it? Like, across countries and market. But anyway, so, and they list the different parties and the statistics, like how many have voted for what and all that. So, no, of course I'll put all these links in the description and the comments pinned later, so people can read all this stuff themselves. But yeah, that's the loot box stuff. I don't have any updates unless something like just came out now. This is the most recent update. It literally dropped today. This is a news article that dropped a few hours ago. But yeah, that's the unfortunate there. Loot boxes and the whole Diablo Immortal thing. Like, I don't know really what's going on there. I've never been a Diablo guy. Like, I never even.
I thought you were a human guy.
No, I'm an Android guy.
Oh.
Kill all humans. Oh, did the remake of the sequel actually for that game come out? And Kill All Humans 2 remake came out already, right?
Not a clue.
They're using freaking Ramstein for their trailer.
Mm.
Anyway, but yeah, the whole thing here with the loot boxes, it's, again, just more of the same, unfortunately, but at least some countries are getting something done. The same for America.
Or are they?
Hopefully,
Right,
the rest of the world catches on and starts banning these things. I'm disappointed, not surprised, but I'm disappointed that it's, we're in 2022, and after, loot boxes have been an issue for almost 10 years now. And ever since 2017 with the Battlefront 2, EA one, obviously, loot boxes blew up. Everyone, like, that's when it really hit the fan and people took notice of the problem. And since then, nothing's really changed. In fact, things have gotten worse in some regards. Again, like, now we have the NFT stuff and the blockchain technology and all. thankfully Steam is, just flat out against it and saying they won't allow games that use it. While
honestly,
Epic is like, we're going to do the opposite because China.
To hear that.
Yeah. Speaking of Steam, well, we had the Steam summer sale, but we also have Valve ramps up Steam Deck, not Duck, Deck production.
Back.
Because the Steam Deck apparently has been a huge success. It's kind of like, I haven't heard of there was, when it first released, it was big, everyone was talking about it, but that was really it. I don't know, like, it's been a huge success, and that's great. Like that it's actually good. You know? Color me impressed. Valve, color me impressed. Steam Deck was doing well. They're making more. So if you missed out on the whole pre-order stuff and everything, hopefully you can get one soon. I don't have one, so I can't say for certain anything about it. But from what I've heard, it's a pretty fun little device if you want a portable PC that's smaller than a laptop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially if you're like,
it's also definitely more moddable shit. So,
which I think is one of the selling points. Considering if you go and look at your average gaming computer, I mean, you're probably talking at least $600 to $1,000. At least, if not more than that. I mean, especially with the price of GPUs still these days. I mean, yeah, that can easily skyrocket. So the idea that, hey, here is a PC that you can have on the go. Essentially it's a tablet PC that has Steam, that's built for gaming. It's not like, it's kind of sort of for gaming maybe if you squint a bit. Like, no, this is made for you to play all your normal games on. Honestly, it's a great introduction of the PC into the console market, which is honestly hilarious when you think about it, but it really is. It's the PC entry into the console gaming market at a similar price point that the Xbox One and the PlayStations are going for. Similar price point, if you're going for the higher end.
Right.
So if you're going for the lower end, because it's like the PlayStation 5 MSRP, not even counting the scalpers, MSRP was $500-$600, right? And on the low end, you can get a Steam Deck for like $300, $400 something, right?
Yeah, the Steam Deck had we covered it when the initial announcement. I don't remember what the prices were, but yeah, it's definitely
if I remember
on par.
Right, the low end one was like $350, $400.
Yeah,
Middle
yeah. No, it was essentially
like
comparable to a PS4 or
PS5
or 7. An Xbox. Like essentially, think the Xbox. What's the smaller one? The Series S.
Yeah.
So it's essentially like you can get that, or you can get the Series X. Like it's kind of like that, like the pricing wise. Like where one was like half the price of the other one, something like that. So, yeah, no, exactly what you're saying. It's essentially here's a PC, like a pretty good gaming PC for the price of a console. Fairly moddable, like all sort. It uses Linux-based Steam OS, right, which is a completely open source operating system, which is great. And you can, it's honestly, I'm surprised because I did not expect it to do this well. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be like Steam machines again, isn't it? But no, here we are. It's apparently really well received. Apparently it's a better Nintendo Switch than the Switch because there's a Nintendo Switch emulator on it, and
I heard they were trying to put out like lawsuits to try to pull down any video showing people playing Switch games on it and that kind of stuff.
Good luck.
Because they're like, no, it's doing better. No.
Yeah.
It's like, surprise, bitch.
You have to have like the Ellen Ripley like screaming at aliens when Newt gets lost, like no. like the hysterical screaming.
Pretty much.
And Nintendo does not like it when people emulate
fuck no.
anything.
Well, I mean, I can understand it to a degree. I still find it fucking hilarious.
Yeah. But the problem too is like I can understand it, but at the same time, what do you expect them to do? You're not providing them with an alternative. Because it's not like people don't want to spend money on a Nintendo, like a retro Nintendo console or something, for them to go, oh, so I can play my favorite old NES game or whatever. Like, they want that, but you're not offering that. You're not offering them any type of alternative to their decaying consoles and stuff, so they're stuck with having to emulate it, and they do it very well because, hey, it's a PC. It's pretty cool though, like what I've seen. Cause like I've seen some videos and stuff like, oh, how to get XYZ mods and stuff working on the Switch, not the Switch, sorry, the Steam Deck. And it's a very impressive machine. Because again, I did not expect it to be, well, good.
Rise, bitches.
And it's interesting too because like I'd say for like the last 20 years? No, because 20 years, 10 years now. I'd say 10 years. Nintendo has really been whatchamface. They've why am I blanking on the fucking term? Monopolized and owned the portable gaming market. Like there was nothing else out there. Like you did have once upon a time like the PSP and others, but those are all gone because they couldn't compete with Nintendo stuff. But now you finally have something that was not meant to be a competitor, acting as a very good competitor. Interesting. Wouldn't you say?
I try not to.
What, say?
Yes. Maybe.
Say it ain't so.
It ain't so.
Okay. Ooh, do you want to hear some Cyberpunk news?
Was it
Because
bad?
that game,
It's bad, isn't it?
Quantic Labs responds to claims it misled CD Projekt Red while working on Cyberpunk 2077. The QA firm does not deny allegations, but says report shows lack of understanding about how games are tested before launch. So I guess Quantic Games was an outsourced QA provider for Cyberpunk,
Mm-hmm.
and given how a lot of the footage shown for marketing for the game was either false or in-house and stuff like that, and not the actual game, which then saw on release on various buggy forms and whatnot. Apparently, there was a whole thing. This is that thing. And more interestingly, regarding Cyberpunk, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the whole thing with the DLC that was, supposedly Cyberpunk, despite having a bunch of DLC planned initially, we're only getting one DLC next year, and not great, especially when a lot of the game feels unfinished. A lot of the side quests don't really have true endings. And hell, one of the main endings of the game teases a DLC. So, and there's cut content for DLCs in the game that you can see via mods. Like if you have the appearance menu mod, you can find a character called Songbird who's supposed to be part of a DLC. But apparently with all the stuff going on with The Witcher and now switching over to Unreal 5 engine, CDPR is just, they're kind of just abandoning Cyberpunk. Like, they'll get this DLC out, and then that's kind of it. Which, again, kind of sucks, and means that this game has essentially less support than Fallout 4's crappy launch. Yeah, because at least Fallout 4 got some pretty decent DLC post-launch. You know, especially with, you know, Far Harbor and that. Here, nope. So, like, anyone that was still interested or holding out hope for that game, I'm sorry to disappoint.
Or are you?
Yeah, maybe not that sorry.
I know it.
All lies, lies, and deceit.
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay, fine, no.
No.
But yeah, this whole thing with Quantic, honestly, at this point, it seems that the behind the scenes for Cyberpunk were such a mess that I'm not surprised, and I wouldn't even really care anymore. You know, it's sad because like it's not like this was a crappy game, the crappy release. You know, like your Battlefield or whatever. It's a game that there are good elements to it, and it had the potential to be a very good game, but unfortunately it was overhyped and undersold. Or whatever. It was overhyped and oversold, and you guys all know what happened. I don't have to spell it out for you. But in terms of gaming news, I guess the last topic in regards to games that are bad releases and such. So right off the bat, again, I don't really play any Activision or Blizzard games at all. So this again doesn't affect me, but it does affect some people I know and just everyone that enjoys these types of games. Apparently, the original Overwatch will be unplayable and effectively dead when Overwatch 2 releases. Although I heard it already released, I think. Or it's not actually launched, because according to here, it's supposed to release on October 4th. Not October 4th, but I've heard that it already launched? I don't know. I don't follow this shit. I'm not an Overwatch guy. But apparently, if you're an Overwatch fan, I'm sorry. I mean, it does kind of suck. You're playing a game, and then that means that everything in the game essentially becomes like it's dead, like it's gone, like there's nothing. And that's the problem with the DRMs as a whole, right? Like we talked about that when Xbox had that issue with the DRMs a few months ago, where for was it like 3 days you couldn't play an Xbox game because the servers were down.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing something about that.
So you were essentially fucked. Pardon my French, but you couldn't play your games because whether it's on Game Pass or your discs, because nowadays all the games are online all the time, every time. So if it doesn't have an internet connection, you are screwed. You know, that's the whole problem with that Sony whatchamface, the CMOS battery for the PlayStation 4. Like at the moment, yeah, you know, as long as you can reconnect it to the servers, you're fine. However, once the servers are shut down, which will be inevitable considering how they're going to shut them down once the PlayStation 6 or whatever comes out, you're screwed and you're now left with a glorified brick.
Hooray! Wait, that's a bad thing.
No one wants a glorified brick.
No.
So, and that's the problem with DRMs as a whole. Like, yeah, it's supposed to be this anti-piracy measure, but I mean, how good are they when they kind of fuck over the consumer in the process?
As well, I mean, and we've seen this time after time after time again, to where we get told, oh, we're doing this purely to go and protect our poor interests here, and yet time after time after time again, it seems to only hurt the average consumer that is doing things properly and playing nice, going through all the hoops here, while the actual pirates are like hee and aren't affected at all by it. So it's like, not only do your measures not work, but at the same time they don't do what you said you wanted to fix, and they make it worse for the average person. It's like, talk about fucking up.
Yeah, the problem with the DRMs are endless, I would say. Well, not endless, but I mean, everyone, like, if you're like, gaming informed and you play games and all stuff, and you know what a DRM is, then I don't need to read it out. But for those who don't know, our DRM is an anti-piracy method that essentially means that you have to have, it's like there's a unique signature to the game, and you have to hook it up to the internet so that it registers, so that it can, like, that's the techno babble behind it. But what it essentially means is that you need to be online in order to play this game. For instance, like, you compare for simplicity, right, layman's terms, let's take a 360 game. Let's take, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Random game I'm looking at on my cabinet right now. Okay. I can put that in my Xbox 360 right now and play it, and no problems, right? I have the disc, I have the console, powered, and it's hooked up to a TV, I have a controller. It's all I need. But the Xbox One, if I want to play, say, Alien Isolation on my Xbox One, I need to put the game in, and then needs to install, like, say I never put the game in before. It needs to install into the control, because the way a lot of your time, the disc will have the game on it in some cases, but for the most part, the disc is just a glorified digital download code. And the whole point of this is to fight against piracy, but honestly, it kind of just makes it easier for the pirates, because now all the game's digital. Honestly, at this point, your whole anti-piracy method just makes it harder and more difficult for everyone. Then why is it there?
Details.
Sure, man. Like, some games, you have to have a code or whatever, and then other times there's the just like, maybe Alien Isolation is a bad example, but the point is that a lot of these games, they don't really work without internet. A lot of the time, like, how many times do you, I haven't played this game in a while, you put it into your Xbox One or your PlayStation 4, and all of a sudden there's an update for it. You have to update it. Like, that's why I don't use my Xbox One a lot, is because every time granted, I don't use it a lot in the first place, but whenever I turn it on, there's always some kind of update that needs to happen. And I don't want to sit there for an update for whatever minute. I want to play the game. But, like, here's Windows 10, but for a console. Yay. I did not explain that well, did I? There are videos that explain it better. The whole thing here with the Overwatch 2, June. It was revealed in June that Overwatch 2 launches in October 4th. It will replace the first hero shooter title, as reported by Kotaku during the Reddit Ask Me Anything. Thread and developer team addressed various questions regarding the sequel. In reply to one of the questions, gamer director Aaron Keller explained as to what will be happening with the first game. Answer quoting, larger pieces of the first game that have always been part of the vision. Larger pieces of the game that have always been a part of the vision for Overwatch 2 will be released to the game as part of the live service, including the launch of the PvE campaign next year. When Overwatch 2 launches on October 4th, it will be a replacement for the current live service of Overwatch 1. Kotaku adds that originally former game director Jeff Kaplan said with the launch of the second game on both titles, it will be shared multiplayer environment where no one gets left behind. Then why the hell is it a sequel? Why is it aside from more money? It was also said that the player's progress in Overwatch 1 will carry over when the free-to-play sequel launches. Oh, wow, that explains everything. It's free-to-play. I didn't even know that. It's free-to-play.
Yeah. Well, again, so no one gets left behind in paying the money.
Show me the money. Yeah, the gaming industry is pretty shit. I mean, there are good games though. I mean, you have indie games. Find them. By the way, I know the Steam Summer Sale was recently, but I did not even look at any on then. Was there anything good?
In what?
The Steam Summer Sale. Was there anything good?
I mean, nothing I found especially good, but
Fortunate. Of course, the screen. Everything we said about you, if till Tuesday.
I knew it.
Because a friend of mine was telling me that it was just everything was 15% off, or nothing was really on
That
sale.
was me. I was telling you that.
Huh? Oh yeah, okay.
I was telling you that.
I don't know, man. It was a long day yesterday.
I mean, and it's like
I've been on the phone with you for the last 48 hours, so I should know better. AI brain slow, buffering.
And it's like some stuff was, of course, actually on sale, 50% and stuff. But it's just I didn't see anything that was really, I was like, wow, that's a great deal kind of stuff. I was like,
Well, did you hear about the Xbox head? Xbox Games head is confident that Bethesda is not crunching.
I did see that, and I was just like,
yeah, I put it in the Discord, right? And I'm just like, what do you mean you're sure? You're confident? It's your job. So for context, Xbox Games head what's the Xbox Games head name again? It's not the Xbox. Sorry, Xbox Game Studio boss Matt Booty. Really? I feel like this is now just a joke article and not taking anything seriously, just with that name. Has addressed concerns about working conditions at Bethesda and ZeniMax, reportedly saying that the studios no longer suffer from crunch culture. If anyone listening listened to our previous episode, you may recall that we covered the story, the expose about Fallout 76 and the crunch and just overall nonsensically abusive work environment for that game. But anyway, during a Q&A at the company all-hands meeting, Booty was reportedly asked about a Kotaku article that detailed the allegations of crunch at the Starfield studio from projects dating back as far as Skyrim, right up to 2018 on Fallout 76. According to Kotaku, which claims to have seen footage of the meeting, Booty said that crunch culture was just part of the industry 10 years ago. Oh yeah, that was him, wasn't it?
Yep.
That quote has been floating around for years.
Aged well.
10 years ago, literally. and added that it is unfair to only attribute it to Bethesda. Yeah, that doesn't make it better. I don't say that to justify it, I'm just saying it was part of the culture of the industry. I literally slept under my desk early in my career, and we looked at that like a badge of honor. Booty said that articles addressing crunch, such as Kotaku's, look backwards, sometimes pretty far back in time, and added that the conditions detailed in the aforementioned report are a thing of the past. I know from talking to Bethesda leadership that we do not have a situation where people are crunching and we've got this bullying atmosphere. I'm confident about that. Sorry, we do not have a situation.
It's great that he's confident about that.
We do not have a situation where people are crunching and that we've got the way he worded that. It's like, at least it may have sounded differently when you're speaking versus, but I know from talking to Bethesda leadership that we do not have a situation where people are crunching. We've got this bullying atmosphere. I'm confident about that. Okay. But, like, that's the thing. Like, I'm confident. But you're the boss. You should be sure. You should be absolutely positively sure. You should be overseeing it. That's your job.
Well, and part of the problem, too, with that is it's like, you're confident that this is happening. It's like, it's great that you're confident. I don't
Right.
want your confidence. It's like, I can be confident about something and still be completely fucking wrong. Right?
I won't say anything because I'm involved. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, the whole... I'm reading this and I'm just... I put it in the Discord before, a few hours ago before we went live, and I'm just looking at it. I'm like, what do you mean you're sure? You're supposed to be sure. Like, it's my responsibility if Cam starts abusing data or Coolios. Like, that's not like... I shouldn't be like, oh, I'm sure that he's not doing it. Like, no, I gotta make sure that he's not abusing Coolios and constantly saying blame Canada.
Darn Canadians. They ruined Canada.
No, but that's like the whole thing. Like, jokes aside, that's... Wow. Hey, Kotaku reported that in the same meeting, Booty, I can't say his name with a straight face, I can't, acknowledged that Crunch made... What?
Can you say it with a gay face?
No.
Wah, wah.
Seriously, so that would make him and his wife Mr. and Mrs. Booty? Are you serious?
Yes, it's all a joke.
There's so many... Anyway,
punchline.
laughing at names aside, acknowledged that crunch may still take place without him knowing, and urged Xbox staff to trust the company's internal processes and allow employees to unanimously report issues to HR. What? Like, this... we already know that Xbox, or that Microsoft, not necessarily Xbox, Microsoft has employee harassment issues, just like nearly every other game company out there. Let's see. In June, Kotaku released a report that detailed the incident of crunch, mistreatment, and peer pressure. Yeah, we talked about that. But yeah, this is kind of laughably bad. Like, it's unfortunate. It shouldn't be. Like, you should not be. Oh, I'm sure they're behaving. It's like leaving the kids in the car and then going like, I'm sure they're behaving and everything's fine. Like, are you sure? Maybe you want to actually like make sure your kids are safe and not just like fooling around or something, or trying to take the car for a test drive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to just be, oh, I'm sure it's fine. Like, how about you actually go make sure it's fine?
Nah.
It's laughably bad. It's unfortunate. I'm sure that there probably is crunch still going on, and we're gonna hear about it in 2 years after the game comes out. Or Starfield, I mean. Talking about Bethesda here. Shame.
Yep.
Well, what else? think that's it.
I got nothing.
I'm quickly going to scour the leak or to see if there is nothing new. No, wait! We forgot to talk about something Star Citizen related.
Oh.
The Corsair interior screenshots that the subscribers got to see. And how beautiful the interior looks. You know, for a Drake ship. So this is the interior. Back to Star Citizen. Yeah, we're jumping back. Star Citizen,
What's
the
that?
Corsair mess hall. The Drake Corsair, it's pretty much the Drake version of the Constellation. Except it's more functional. Looks nicer in a way. At least the living quarters look a little nicer. I do like that they added the security guards on the ship, just kind of like for scale reference. I do like that. Overall, it's nice. Looks like Drake. I mean, they just reused assets from the Caterpillar, but it works. So yeah, there's that, and here there's that cool shot of that retro RSI spacesuit. I'm so glad they're adding this in. It's just silly, but why not, right? Oh my god, the machinima stuff that's gonna come out of this suit is gonna be awesome. But yeah, that's I think that's it for this week. Oh, and we got Mega J1 in the chat saying Happy Independence Day. And then he's quoting Indiana Jones and the what Raiders of the Lost Ark. No, wait. Yes. Sorry, I was just blanking on which one that was. Offering. But yep, it is Independence Day. Let me see if I can find that old image. Oh, cool, I do have it. Okay, here. Ta-da! Oh, I forgot to... the game screens. Should have had this on the entire time instead. There you go. But yeah, that's all the gaming news for this week. I think there is some stuff for non-gaming news.
That's a lie.
Yeah, like some movie news and stuff, but nothing really of note. Like, I guess because Lightyear came out, right?
Yep. From what I heard, it was pretty much like the talking cat pretty much carried it.
Yeah, that's that checks out with what I've heard too. I watched some videos that were comparing it to the old cartoon from 2000. I think in our Discord server I put like the video in there, but essentially they're talking about, like, you know, because I didn't know this until until the weekend, that apparently the movie Lightyear is supposed to be the movie that Andy saw before the events of the first Toy Story movie that got him to get Buzz in the movie. Like, okay, wouldn't it have made more sense for the cartoon movie that came out in 2000 to have been that? But yeah, I will say, like, I haven't watched any trailers or stuff. The only thing I've seen of the film is some, again, comparison videos to the old cartoon, and it didn't look really great. Like, visually, it looked impressive, but it was weird that Pixar, of all people, went very, I can't say realistic, but as realistic as they've ever been for a Pixar movie. It was weird, like the visuals, like, just because, again, it's Pixar, you're not expecting that. type of art style from Pixar. It's impressive, but it's not what you'd expect from them. If anyone watching has watched the movie, I guess let us know what you thought in the comments and would recommend it or not. I'm not going to watch it there, but just trying to be polite. Now, Megan1's mentioning Spider-Man. Actually, this reminds me, I did see something pretty fucking weird today. So, there's this monstrosity. Where's the... So, it's from this Edge of Spider-Verse. Again, Edge of Spider-Verse is from, 2014 or so. And like this costume, just the only good thing it has going for it is the spider emblem, and not even as a spider emblem for Spider-Man. It's just cool spider art. Honestly, I'd expect something like this to be like a Halo emblem back in Halo 3. Here, Cam, so you can see the monstrosity too.
Can I?
I put it in the group chat.
Hold on.
Like the colors are pretty nauseating. Like it's supposed to be based off of a web weaver spider, which is essentially it's got 4 legs. It's got 8 legs, but it stretches its
great.
It stretches its legs when it makes its webs, and essentially 2 legs in 4 corners are holding on to the strands of the web, and this way you can feel every vibration on the web, and then if something hits it. It just lets go of the other corresponding strands to just slingshot itself towards it, to the prey. It's a neat predator, but like that's an inspirational basis for a combat or just suspenseful scene, not a character.
Yeah.
And this design is pretty yikes. I mean, it looks like it came out of 1602, which, hey, if this is going to be a 1602 character, cool, but why the fuck does it have eyelashes?
Don't ask questions.
It's just fucking weird, but then again... Like, it's a very feminine dress-like thing, too, with the sleeves there.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah?
But just the color palette, yeah, that was not a great move.
Yeah. The yellow is very, like, it's pretty nauseating. Like, the whole reason why web weavers are yellow in real life is because it's supposed to be like they're supposed to not look like a giant spider hanging on their web when doing that pose. Catch prey. They're just supposed to look like an object kind of on a plant or something. Supposed to look like tree bark. But here, character design, yikes. A little bit of a stomach upsetter. Get it off the screen so that we can... For those that had lunch, I had not had. I'll put the sexy RSI suit back on. There we go. You know what the problem is though? We don't have real time reflections in Star Citizen yet, so that visor isn't going to be put to full use yet. That's going to be disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be impressive for the stuff that we do see people use it for, but like if you're going to do machinima stuff, just keep that in mind. Real time reflections aren't in yet. You're going to have to get creative. This just looks so fucking cool. And so do these. Did they say that the RRS specialist armors are... well, those are going to be lootable, right? Because we already looted them in the game.
Yeah.
They just... Yeah, so... Double check.
Pack specific.
Give it to me, Jared.
Orders patch report. Up first, let's start with some character items and these new variants of the RRS Specialist Heavy Armor coming to Alpha 3.17.2, including this traditional camo variant, an Arctic variant, and perhaps my personal favorite, the radiation-resistant Fallout variant. There's also a new Grey Cat backpack.
Okay, yeah. Oh, and you're getting the backpack for the Arrow Grey Cat armor. That's gonna be cool. The Grey Cat Arrow armor. I actually didn't take time to look at the backpack itself. Neat. Yep, so yeah, there's all your Star Citizen stuff, gaming stuff, and then that weird ass Spider-Man thing. All I'm gonna say is that the design I did in the Discord server is if we were monetized, we can. Yeah, it'd be interesting if we were monetized, which that's a big. We can probably put all the art shit in the Discord server through that community. Highlight people that help get them noticed. But of course, that would mean we'd have to get noticed first so that we can get them noticed. That's never gonna.
Nope.
Effort and futility, hooray! So end it.
Yep, think so.
Want to end it on?
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Guess Happy Independence Day. I'll go watch Independence Day.
I'll go blow something up. What?
War crimes.
Hooray! Wait, was that war crimes or more crimes? Either way, hooray!
Either way, it works no matter what. Alright, well, I think that's it for now. Like, unless something just happens in the next 2 minutes.
No.
Ever waiting at the door to hear something. Oh, there is one thing worth mentioning. Our friend Chris has been getting a lot of publicity last week with Alien Week. Or not, was it last week? 2 weeks ago. He was in a lot of podcast stuff. I'm thinking of putting a playlist together to put on the channel so that people can see it's just all the podcasts and shit that he's been on, including the CitizenCon panel he was on. Why not? This is a cool dude. There's our love and attention. Our friend. We don't see upload of him anymore because he's doing contract work for. I love how everyone else's friends haven't yet. Although that actually makes more sense. Alright, yeah. Yep, that's gonna be it for now. Have hopefully if you it's still Independence Day on the East Coast, so. And obviously for those on the West Coast, it's gonna be Independence Day for longer. Continue having a happy Independence Day. Enjoy that barbecue. I don't fucking know. What even? Yeah.
In final news of my Skyrim, I'm a week into modding, and just so while we've been talking here, I've been fiddling with it. I'm at 730 mods already a week in.
Nice.
Admittedly, probably half of these are fucking patches. Shit.
Do those count?
I mean, yeah.
They're necessary.
I mean,
we'll let them count. They're
making
necessary.
the patch between two mods can be harder than making the mod itself.
That is true. Fair enough. Carry on. I think I'm gonna hang out in the Discord after this. Alright.
Okay. Wait, this Discord or like
The server, so the people can join us.
Not that anyone ever comes by.
No, but we At least not for lack of trying. Right? Besides, I don't want to hang out. No, I'm saying down. Alright. That's gonna be it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am going to actually end it on this. For anyone that is listening, whether live or on the rerun, in the comment section, put in the comment section whether you would want a podcast episode that is only Star Citizen, like instead of doing Star Citizen and gaming news, and it's just Star Citizen, and we do a second podcast for non-Star Citizen stuff, or if you just say keep it as is. So, Star Citizen exclusive podcast or all in one.